Namaskar, welcome to PK's classes. Today we are going to study about the difference between parametric and non-parametric tests. Parametric is derived from the word parameter, and parameter means a measurable characteristic that define a distribution, and mostly we follow the normal distribution. Normal distribution is a bell-shaped curve. That means suppose we get some data and the major parameter, when we say the parameters like mean, standard deviation, they follow the normal distribution, and the suppose here in this data the mean is 1150 and one standard deviation is 150. So minus one standard deviation plus one standard deviation, the data is between 1000 to 1300. So almost 68% of data comes within one standard deviation, mean plus minus one standard deviation. 95% of data, this much data, comes within two standard deviation, and 99.7% data comes within three standard deviation. So mean plus minus three standard deviation within that range. So mean minus three standard deviation to mean plus three standard deviation, that range almost covers 99.7% data. Then that data follows normal distribution. We call that as 68, 95, 99.7 rule. 68% within one standard deviation, 95% within two standard deviation, and 99.7% of data comes within three standard deviation, mean plus minus three standard deviation. So suppose the data we have collected, that 99.7% of data will come within 700 to 1600. In that case, that mean will be 1150, and this follows the normal distribution or bell-shaped curve, a bell-shaped curve. Okay. So that is parameter, a measurable characteristic that define a distribution, and example like mean and standard deviation. So the tests which use parameter, that is parametric tests. So parametric tests, in parametric test it is assumed that the population data follows a certain distribution, that is normal distribution, defined by specific parameters such as mean, standard deviation. So usually we assume that the sample we take from a population represents the whole population. Suppose in animal experiments we take only 6 animals per group. 6 animals per group, and suppose there are 5 groups. So we have taken total 30 animals. So we have taken only 30 animals, that is the sample, and we assume that this sample represents the whole population of the animals. Say we have taken rat, so the 30 rats, that is the sample, will represent the whole population of rats. That we define by means of parameters like mean and standard deviation. So if the assumption is that the sample animals, they represent the whole population, that means that follows the normal distribution. So in that case we test to know that whether the sample represents the whole population or not. So we use the parametric test. And if the parameters are not used, then we call them non-parametric tests. So we do not assume a specific distribution of the data used for the, and mostly it is used for the ordinal data in case of non-parametric tests. So the parametric tests use parameters like mean and standard deviation to make inferences about the population. We use the samples and make inferences about the population using the parameters like mean and standard deviation, and the tests which use these parameters, they are called parametric tests. So generally used for interval data and ratio data. For the knowing the different types of data, you can refer to our earlier class on types of data. So interval data is the data where the differences between values are meaningful and consistent, but there is no true 0 point temperature. So no true 0 point means if it is the data is 0 degrees Celsius, that means 0 degrees Celsius is also a temperature. So we cannot rule out that 0 is there. 0 degrees Celsius is also a useful data. Then ratio data where the differences and ratios between the values are meaningful. Not only the differences but also the ratios. There is a true 0 point. So when we in this type of data, when there is a data which says 0, that means there is absolutely absence of that data. So when we say age 0, that means there is no data on at that point 0. So that type of data is called ratio data, and both differences and ratios are considered. Only differences between values, interval data, no true 0 point. So the non-parametric tests usually use the ordinal data, interval data, ratio data for parametric tests, ordinal data for non-parametric tests, and do not assume a specific distribution like parametric. In parametric, we assume a specific distribution, mostly the normal distribution, but in non-parametric test, we do not assume a specific distribution of the data. So now, point-wise, let us discuss the difference between parametric and non-parametric tests. So assumption, we assume that the data follows a specific distribution, usually a normal distribution in parametric tests. We do not assume a specific distribution of the data in case of non-parametric tests. Data type, parametric tests generally used for interval or ratio data, whereas non-parametric tests are often used for ordinal data. When the data does not meet parametric assumptions, say non-normal distribution, small sample size, in that case also we use non-parametric tests. Some of the examples of parametric tests are t-tests, ANOVA, and analysis of variance, Pearson's correlation. Examples of non-parametric tests: Mann-Whitney U-test, Wilcoxon-rank sum test, Kroskal-Wallis test, Spearman's rank correlation. The advantages: parametric tests are more powerful if assumptions are met, because they use more information about the data, so we call them more powerful. And the advantage of non-parametric tests: more flexible, can be used if parametric assumptions are violated. Disadvantage: can give misleading results if the assumptions are not met, parametric tests. And non-parametric tests are less powerful. So parametric tests more powerful, non-parametric tests less powerful than parametric tests if parametric assumptions hold true. So if assumptions true, then we should use parametric tests, not non-parametric tests. So the non-parametric tests are said to be less powerful than parametric tests. So this is all about the difference between parametric and non-parametric tests. Thank you.